So we can just start. Again, we will start with trying to quiet our mind by watching the breath for a few moments. Then we can try to generate good intention. May I ask coming here together and trying to listen and discuss and reflect. May all of them become cause and conditions to actualize all the lamrim realization within the mind stream of oneself and all sentient beings. At least, even we cannot have a realization immediately that we put a lot of imprint in our mind, that it becomes more easier to understand and to have a realization in the future. In having actualized all the lamrim realization, may we be able to achieve the buddhahood as soon as possible for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay. To the founder, the endowed, transcended, destroyed, the one gone beyond, the four destroyed, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect knowledge and its good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings, with him, teacher of God, human beings, to you, the completely, fully awakened one, the endowed, transcended, destroyed, the glorious conqueror, the subdued from the Shakya plane, I prostrate, make offering, go for refuge. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dhamma refuge, homage to the Great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects. With the supreme faith, I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha: a star, a visual aberration, a flame of lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, a bubble, a dream, flash of lightning, a cloud, see condition, things as such. Through this merit, may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the four folds, and be delivered from samsaric oceans, perturbed by the wave of aging, sickness, and death. I prostrate to the Arya Table gem, thus did I hear one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on the mass of Bolch's mountain. In Ratgir, together with the great community of monks and great community of bodhisattvas, at that time the Bhagavan observed in the concentration of categories phenomena called from perception. Also at that time the bodhisattva master Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of profound perfection and wisdom and beheld those five aggregate also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra, said this to the Bodhisattva Master Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wish to practice the activities of profound perfection and wisdom? He said that in the Bodhisattva Master Arya Avalokiteshvara Said this to the Venerable Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wish to practice the activities of profound perfection and wisdom should look upon it like this correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregate also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness form, emptiness not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factor, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, no division, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factor, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, both Bodhisattva rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration, without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in 3 times manifestly, completely awakened to unsurprisable, perfect, complete enlightenment in the reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, then unsurprised mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that totally pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata gade gade, paragade, parasamgade, bodhi soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Master, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from the concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Master Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoiced. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Master Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding the entirety along the world of the gods, humans, asura, and Gandharvas were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Sashi Peki Chonshin Medo Tarira Lenshi Yende Genbande Sanke Shinto Mide Uwa Dogun Namata Shin Chöpa Joyedam Gururana Mandala Hanyatayami. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by the merits I create through listening to the Dharma. May I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodan Soge Sonoma, Chanju Bado Dane Kefas, Taki Choje Give Sonamge, Dola Penche Sangye Duva, Sangye Chodan Soge Sonoma, Chanju Bado Dane Kefas, Taki Choje Give Sonamge, Dola Penche Sangye Duva. So last week we kind of discussed at the very beginning of the summary of the whole lamrim path, and in terms of meditation on the lamrim, there are many different ways of doing that. In certain traditions or in certain way of doing, like normally, you will be given instructions on how to meditate on the first subject for Guru devotions, for example. And you go and meditate for that months and months until you have certain experience with that. Once you have that experience, then you will be moved to the next meditations, give more instructions, guided and instructions. The next subjects, precious human rebirth. Again, then you go in and meditate And that could take weeks, months, or years, for different individuals. Some people might be able to have a experience realization more quicker than others. And once you have a little bit of experience, then again, the teachers, they give you instruction to the next. So that is one way of doing, that. So you just focus on one particular subject until you have, even you don't have real realization, but at least you have some experience of that, little bit of that. And only then you are giving instruction to move to the next stages. And yeah, then of course, there is also other traditions where you try to practice, meditate whole lamrim. So maybe you might focus on first subjects such as Guru devotions for a few weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks. Then you move, whether you have the experience or not, but you move to the next subjects. Again, 2-3 weeks. Again, you move, whether you have experience or not, then you move to the next subject and you complete the whole lamrim. Okay. So that is one way of doing it. And then once you have gone through the whole lamrim topic, then again you come from the very beginning, and again you can spend more time. Before maybe you spend 1 or 2 weeks. Now maybe you spend 1 month with each subjects. And then again go through the whole lamrim and complete the whole lamrim over the times. So that is one way of one particular way or tradition. In that way, then you kind of have within the certain time, you have the contemplated or meditated on the whole lamrim, whole lamrim, and it is important to take a time, to spend on one particular topic enough time, instead of changing the topic very quickly, because for us, it takes time to think and feel that, so you repeat again and again, that same kind of meditation, same contemplations, and slowly, it started to sink with the time. And then you started to really feel it, even though you cannot feel it at the very beginning, but it's with the time, if you give enough time to reflect, to contemplate, same practice, same meditation, and then with the time it started to feel, and you started to have a little bit of taste of that, and that can give you a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of encouragement, so then after that, continuing what we have discussed last week is, in terms of PTF is 290, and at the very end of that, where is the B, the difference between meditation that does or does not hit home, and how to preach through the core, through detailed thoughts. So that is where we are in terms of the book. I don't know. So here it says cultivating the lower parts, you should grow more and more keen on attending the higher ones. So as you meditate on the lower path, let's say precious human rebirth, precious human rebirth. As you meditate on that, then, by meditating and having some experience with that, then that you should grow and more keen on attending the next realization, the realization of impermanence, for example. Next one is impermanence. So for example, the more you reflect and contemplate and meditate on the precious human rebirth, then it should help you to, it should allow you to grow more and more, keen or aspirations to attain the higher, such as the precious human rebirth. And when you started to study and hear more about the higher, higher practices or subjects, you should increasingly wish to accomplish the lower ones, So the more you, the more you study, the more you learn, the more you contemplate on higher, the more, increase to accomplish the lower part should grow, instead of kind of saying, those lower ones are easy or foundational or beginning, sometimes we tend to do that. Or I've gone through that, so then I don't need to do that. There is sense of doing that. And so when you do that, then again, we lose the foundations, And so therefore, the more you meditate higher, the more it should give you more inspiration to accomplish the lower ones. For example, the more you practice Tantra, it must help you to actually to accomplish the more common path. The more you meditate on bodhicitta, the more it should help you to feel the need to generate the renunciations. So like that, So it should, instead of saying, oh, I don't need renunciations because I'm practicing a higher bodhicitta, for example, Sometimes that is how we could feel when we don't have the correct meditations or right meditations, So when you meditate, then you also need to purify your thoughts and balance your mind. And that is another important point. When you are meditating on lamrim, we need to balance. We need to train our mind and to balance, I don't know, purify is the right word. What is the way? In Tibetan, Chang means it could be purifying or training as well, So training your mind and making your mind more balanced. If we don't know how to balance that, then there can be a problems. There can be a problems. And sometimes I think practitioners get into problems because they don't know how to balance that. For example, someone is mentally low and depressed, for example. You are in a situation where your mind is very kind of low and depressed. And in those situations, if you try to meditate on death impermanent, something more, it might lead you more depressing. You should meditate on something that is uplifting. From the lamrim subject, you should focus on something that is uplifting, that can uplift, such as, meditating on, for example, precious human rebirth, the benefit of bodhicitta, going to the refuge, and something like that. On the other hand, when your mind is, too distracted and kind of, to worldly things and so forth, then again, you need something to kind of bring your mind. So you have to meditate on something like dead impermanent, general dead impermanent, and for example, the suffering of lower realms, suffering of samsara in general, and especially suffering of lower realms, so forth. So that is where we have to be able to train and balance that, knowing what state of mind we are, and according to that, then we have to focus on particular subjects, so that can help our mind kind of uplifted instead of being low and down, So that is how we can balance. It is important because, for example, your teacher might, or your teachers, or you might be on the point, you have been following lamrim meditation, and now you are meditating on a point where you are meditating on dead impermanent, for example. And that is that's at that time your mind for whatever reason, your mind might be low and a little bit depressed. In that situation, you shouldn't be meditating on that. You should focus on some other subject that uplift. And so that is where balancing comes, and that is where also the needs of the teacher's guidance, So then if you discuss with the teacher, then they can help you to kind of, balance and kind of move the practice here and there. And so according to your needs and according to your state of mind, your being. So those are important because, I think a lot of practitioners end up having a lot of lung, kind of, in Tibetan we call lung, wind energy, unbalanced wind energy, and people kind of, become very, sometimes they can break down, have a breakdown. And so that is when you don't know how to balance. That can happen when you don't know how to balance at the right time, and when you don't get right guidance in the right time. So here, some of the examples Je Tsongkhapa give. Thus, if your respect for spiritual teachers who guide you on the path appear to be low, you put effort in your manner to rely on him. For the root of your collection of goodness would otherwise be cut off, For example, so we check ourselves, and when we realize that we don't have strong devotions, faith to the guru or spiritual masters, when our devotions, our faith, confidence is kind of low in relation to our guru devotion, then we try to focus on that to develop more stronger guru devotion, more stronger faith, more stronger confidence in that, because that is the root of all our virtues. That is the root of all the realizations. If we don't have that strong, then it's like a plant cannot grow when there's no more root. When there's no root, then the plant cannot grow. When the root is rotten, then nothing grows. When the root is rotten, nothing grows. In the same way, the very root of all the realizations, the path, is that one. And so if that becomes rotten because it is not strong, it's low, then, and therefore when we see ourselves, we try to investigate, analyze ourselves, and when we see that is not strong, then we should put effort to develop that. So that is. On the other hand, likewise, if your enthusiasm for practice is little, we don't have so much enthusiasm in our practice, in our Dharma practice. When you find out you don't have so much enthusiasm, so much strong joyfulness and interest in practice, then you should meditate on the topic of freedom and endowment, your main thing. So therefore, when you find that, then again, we should make our main practice during that time to increase our enthusiasm, to increase our joyfulness, to increase our, inspiration in our practice, then we should try to meditate, focus, and spend more time on meditating on precious human rebirth, how precious it is, and how we should make it more meaningful, beneficial, or how we shouldn't waste it. So meditating on precious human rebirth when our interest or enthusiasm of our practice is low, when it's not strong, then that is where we should. So again, you see, depending on how we feel in certain, because, unless we have really unshaken realization, sometimes we seem to have strong devotions, then other time we don't have a strong devotions. So that is where sometimes we seem to have a strong enthusiasm on practice, sometimes we lose that enthusiasm. So because that changes. So according to how we respond, how our mind responds in that certain time, then we try to focus on particular subject, the lamrim, to increase that, whichever is low at that time. So that is the point, that is the point. Main thing. Whereas if your adherence to this life increase, you should mainly meditate on the topic of impermanent disadvantage of lower rebirth. On the other hand, when we become too attached to this lifetime, when we find, when we are being too attached to this life and the enjoyment of this life, comfort of this life, experience of this life, when we become too attached to that, and therefore we kind of, and get too distracted because we are too attached to them, then at that point, then the best is to contemplate and focus on meditation on impermanent in general, and especially death impermanent, and the suffering of lower rebirth, how death will come, and after the death, there's only two places to go, higher rebirth and lower rebirth. And if we are unable to practice well in this life, then most likely it could be in lower rebirth. And if it is lower rebirth, the suffering is so intense, it is scary even just to think about it, and forget about experience itself. Sometimes we don't even want to meditate on that, because just trying to think and meditate, it is too fearful, too scary. And so, and therefore, and then in a certain time, you seem to neglect ethical boundaries you have accepted. So, whatever vows we might have taken, Pratimosha vows, Bodhisattva vows, tantric vows, whatever different vows, precepts we might have taken, when you find out we are being a little bit careless about them, and not paying so much attention, not being so much mindfulness, and thereby kind of breaking or diluting those, when we find we are in that kind of situations in a certain time of our life, certain time of the year, months, then you should mainly meditate on actions and their effect. Then we should, in those times, then we have to meditate on the karma, the law of cause and effect, how each of those carelessness, behavior, actions, how each of breaking of those precepts, how each of those diluting those precepts can have many different negative consequences. On the other hand, when we are able to observe them well, then all the positive consequences of that. So the more you understand that, then the more careful we become, more mindful we try to become, the more we try to keep and observe them purely, So then in those times, then trying to meditate on the karma can help to become more careful from being careless, from breaking to be keeping them better. If your disenchantment with the cyclic existence is little, your endeavor for liberation will be nothing but words. So you should reflect on this advantage of cyclic existence, So again, if we don't have any disenchantment to the samsara, cyclic existence, if we are still attached to the samsaric experiences, samsaric pleasure, then even we say we want to achieve liberation, even we recite all different prayers, that will be just like a word, because you are still very much stuck in the samsara, because your mind is still very much stuck into samsara and attached to samsara, samsaric pleasure. And therefore, even though we say, and even though we make those prayers, we recite those prayers to achieve liberation and so forth, but that will only just be a word. It will not come from the depth of our heart. And therefore, in order to let go of attachment to the samsaric experience, samsaric pleasure, so that we can have a true sense of inspiration to the liberation, not just from the word, from the depth of our heart, then we need to meditate on disadvantage and shortcoming and the fall of samsara in general, as much as possible. So that. And if you do not seem to have the great strength of mind to make everything you do into something to benefit of sentient being, the root of Mahayana will be cut off. So you should train in inspiring bodhicitta along with its causes. So again, if we find lack of compassion, lack of loving kindness to others, being very indifferent for others' pain and sufferings, having no wish or inspiration to be help and benefit to others, so then, then there's no way to have bodhicitta and no way to be on the both Mahayana path. And therefore, for that, then the root of the Mahayana is cut, without the bodhicitta, then you can't be in real Mahayanas, true Mahayanas practitioners. And so therefore, when we find ourselves, not having enough compassions, even when we see others suffering and pain, not being moved, our mind not being moved, as though not being feeling any kind of, for others' pain and sufferings, and in those times, then we need to focus on the bodhicitta, aspiring bodhicitta, and in order to part of the practice on aspiring bodhicitta, then of course loving kindness, compassion, and all of that. It causes, that is aspiring bodhicitta. It causes. The causes is the special attitudes, loving kindness, and compassion. Those are the it causes. So then we need to train, focus more on that in such. In case you take the vows of the victorious children, so if we have taken the both of the vows and train in their contact, their practice, such as the practice of 6 perfections, or four means of guiding the disciples. So those are the bodhisattvas contact or practice. If the bound, which is the apprehension of the sign, appear to be strong, you should break down. So then we try to take the both of the vows, and after taking the both of the vows, then we try to train in their contact of practicing 6 perfections or 10 perfections, and 4 means of getting disciples, so forth. Okay. And then if the bound, that is the apprehension sign, appear to be strong, you should break down the reference object of apprehension or reasoning consciousness and train in space like an illusion, like emptiness, So when you try to practice whatever different lamrim practice that has been mentioned now, many different lamrim practices, meditations that have been described. And when we try to practice that, or in general, when we find there is a strong grasping, when you find there is a strong grasping to whatever objects, when you find there is strong grasping, then again, you try to destroy that grasping, because that grasping is the very root of all the afflictive emotions and the suffering. And you try to destroy that grasping by destroying the reference object of that grasping, by using reason and logic, by doing, meditating on emptiness, especially like emptiness. And then during the meditation session and during the post-meditation, then making illusion like emptiness. So then you try to apply that 2 type of meditations when you find there is a strong grasping to the objects. And if your mind does not stay on its objects and appear to become a servant of distractions, you should mainly train a stability factor of your single-pointed meditation. And that is what earlier master taught. So earlier master here referring to Kadama masters, and mainly Kadama masters, and of course even earlier that. So again, when we find our mind is not very focused, attentive, when we're trying to practice, meditate, studies, if you find our mind is kind of being more distracted a lot of time, then again, we try to focus and try to give more time and focus to develop more focus, more attentions by focusing on single-pointed meditations. So advise that that your practice should not become one-sided. From this indication, you should also understand situations that have not been explained. So, I think I already kind of described a little of those situations at the very beginning of that, even though Je Tsongkhapa didn't explain everything here, different situation, and in different situation, which particular meditation you should focus on, but he gives some examples, and then you can apply that to all other situations. And so in brief, you should not become one-sided. So in brief, you should not be one-sided. Your continuum should be serviceable to all virtue studies. So, so that is where, we should try to engage in the practice of the whole lamrim, instead of just one topic. When you just do one topic, then it becomes one-sided. But when you apply the whole lamrim, then it becomes the whole complete path. One of the advantage of doing the whole lamrim meditations, even though we do not have effortless realization of earlier topics, and still we continue to meditate on rest of other practice. It can help for example, someone who might be struggling with the Guru devotion, for example, some people from their past imprint or karma, whatever, you know, they have so easy to have that guru devotions. They don't struggle that. For some people, they will struggle so much. They will struggle so much. And that will be same to most of the subject, you know, all other different subjects. Some people is easier certain subject, and some people they struggle with certain subjects, certain topics of those lamrims topics for whatever, you know, from past imprint, you know, karma imprint, you know. So someone who is struggling with, let's say, guru devotion, if they have to meditate that until they have realization, it could take their whole life. Still, they might not have any realizations. So instead, while they still continue to meditate on that, but also at the same time, they meditate on other lamrim topics, at least you have the imprint of the whole topic in your mind. In the futures, it becomes easier, you know, because of the imprint. So at least you have the whole imprint of the whole lamrim. One point. Advantage is that you have the whole imprint of the whole lamrim subjects. Secondly, maybe someone might struggle with the guru devotion, but they might have a very less struggle with, let's say, emptiness, for example. You know, even they don't have a realization, but they have correct understanding, realizations, and because of that, you know, oh, they feel this is incredible, wonderful. They have, from their depth of heart, this teaching, this practice is incredible, unique, special. And because of that, they find very special, very helpful, very beneficial to themselves. Then naturally, they have a, you know, more devotions and faith to the Buddha who taught these teachings and showed the path. And because of that, then, you know, how did I have access to this Buddha's teachings? How was I have this access to this practice? Is through my guru. You know, because of my guru, you know, if I haven't met a guru, I will not know how to practice. I will not be exposed to those teachings. But because of my guru, I was exposed to those teachings and those practices. And because of that, now I'm having some understanding, some, you know, even it is not necessarily the, you know, kind of effortless realization, but at least there's some experience, something transformative happening in your heart, in your mind, something changing. And you are very appreciative of that, grateful of that. And because so then that understanding can help to develop stronger devotion to the guru, stronger devotion to the refuge, for example. And it could be also bodhicitta and vice versa, you know. So something you struggle, earlier practice you struggled, later practice can help you to develop that the earliest practice that you can. So in that way, to meditate and practice the whole complete is beneficial in so many different ways. In like that way, you know, it can support in that way. So not only the imprint, but actually it can help in that way to develop more stronger faith and practice in many of the practice that you struggled before, you know. So then chapter 4 in conclusion, you know, explanation of how to train an uncommon vehicle, Vajra vehicles. In particular, how to train Vajra vehicles or Tantara. Having thus trained in the path that the two, Sutta and Mantra, have common. So, you know, the lamrim is the path that is common to the both Sutra and Tantra. The whole lamrim, if we kind of condense that, then it's the renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom realizing emptiness. Those three are the most common path to both Sutra and Tantra. Okay? So we have to train. First, we need to train in that, which is the common. Then you should no doubt get involved in mantra, because that path is extremely rare compared to other dharma and make you complete to accumulation quickly. And once you have a strong foundations and the ground of the common path, then you should practice the Vajrayana, because here, as Lama Tsongkhapa says, one is a rare, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it, in some of the teachings, it says, among the thousands Buddhas that is going to come during this Kabasangbo, the evil ones or the good fortune ones, Buddha Shakyamuni is the fourth one, among them, it says only four of them, seven of them, I think it's 7 or 11 of them will only teach the tantric teachings. The rest of them, they will only teach sutra and not the whole tantra, because at that time, the sentient beings who come there, they don't have the karma, or they are not ripened to receive the tantric teachings. And so therefore, only, I forgot, or 7 or 11 of them, very few of them will only, so that is rare. And so therefore, if we try to practice now, we have imprint of that. So therefore, we will be born in a time, even if we cannot develop realizations, at least we will be born at a time when the Buddha's tantric teaching is still available. And so there we have access to that, So that is why it's rare than other teachings, Others sutra teachings, all the 1,000 Buddha will give sutra teachings, But the tantric teaching, not all the Buddha will give that, So that is rare. And then also, because in order to achieve enlightenment, is all about accumulating the merits. The quicker you are able to accumulate the merit, the faster you achieve enlightenment. And the tantric practice is a very strong, powerful practice to accumulate merit, because unlike like the sutra, like in sutra, there is method and there is a wisdom to practice, and it is two different practices. But in tantra, same practice, one practice combine both the method and the wisdom, and therefore that become very powerful way accumulating merit as well, with the one practice, with one mind, with one that it encompasses both the method and wisdom. And so therefore you are able to accumulate merit quickly, and therefore able to achieve enlightenment quickly. So then next one, essential, whenever you engage in it, so whenever you engage in the tantric or Vajrayana practice, you should first make your guru happy in excess of that is explained above according to the statement in the lamb of the path to enlightenment. So here it is saying, lamb of the path by Lama Atisha, it is clearly explained is when you try to enter the Vajrayana path, your guru devotions should be much more stronger than the guru devotion that is explained in the lamrim, Sutrayana. So in Sutrayana, in lamrim, with the common path, at the very beginning, it spoke about the importance of relying on qualified, authentic spiritual masters, and to rely correctly and properly through both thought and actions, and it's very much emphasized. But when you come to the Vajrayana, Tantric, that practice of Guru devotion is even much more stronger. You need even much more stronger than that, early ones. So that is also, yeah, it is said, the beginning of the Vajrayana practice of Guru devotions. There is a saying, and also in some of the commentary, there says the very beginning of the Vajrayana is Guru devotions. And also you see all the sadhanas, especially longer sadhanas. Of course, in shorter sadhana, they don't have much because they go. In the longer sadhana, you always start with the Guru devotions or Guru yoga. It always starts with Guru yoga, with a lineage guru, invoking the gurus, lineage gurus, and then requesting them. So Guru devotion become extremely important or necessary, even more in the Vajrayana. So again, that is one thing. Again, we have to be careful whether we are ready for that or not before we enter that. All of that too. It should be someone. So this is another important point Je Tsongkhapa makes here. Here, it should be someone who has at least all the characteristics explained there. So someone you can surrender yourself fully has to be someone, not every guru, but someone, not every guru who claims guru, but someone authentic and qualified guru who has all the characteristics that is explained in the, in terms of lamrim. Then there is 10 qualities, that explain qualities. And then also in terms of tantra, there are different 10 qualities that you have to analyze. And if for those who have those qualities, then you can, if you do that way, then, you wouldn't get in trouble. If someone is not qualified, and then if you totally kind of surrender yourself, then you might get in trouble. You can be misled, misguided. So and then the C, gateway, receiving initiation, important guiding one's commitment and vows. Then you should first have your continuum ripened, your mind continuum or mind stream ripened by the means of initiation, explain the authentic tantras. So first you have to receive the initiations. You have to receive the initiation. The initiation is to ripen your mind stream. So those tantric practice, you are not allowed to do without the initiations normally. You are not allowed to do the initiations without the initiations. So first you need to ripen that through the initiations. Then you should hear and understand. So once you receive the initiations, then you should hear and understand commitments. So then, having taken the initiation, there are general commitments and specific commitments. So we have to understand that. So before you go to any initiation, you have to find out what are the commitments. Because sometimes people just go, oh, there's initiation, you just go, and you are not even aware what are the commitments and what kind of commitment you have taken. And when we do that, then, it's not good for yourself and for teacher as well. And so therefore, first we have to, it is important to ask what are the commitments. And so before we commit fully, so you should hear and understand the commitment. There is general commitment and sometimes specific commitments. And the vows taken on that occasions and guard them. And then, whatever commitment or vows we have taken, then we should try to study that. Once we have taken the unfortunate part of the tantric vows is you cannot study before you take initiations. Unlike like that, both set of vows. Both set of vows, you can actually study that. But tantric vows, you are not allowed to hear those unless you have taken the initiations. So after you have taken initiation, then of course, then you have to study the vows, the 14 root vows and others. So you try to study more and then try to keep them as pure as possible. And if a downfall occur, if the downfall occur, even if the vows can be taken again, as we mentioned before, the vow can be taken again by retaking the initiations, or by doing self-initiations if you have done the correct, if you have already done the commit, all the requirement to do the self-initiations, so then even though it can be taken again and renew it fully, the development excellent quality of path will be greatly delayed in your continuum. So endeavor not be detained by that. And so therefore, even you can be renewed and retaken, but still it will take more time to achieve the realizations because of your downfalls. And therefore, it's better to make sure that we don't break them from the very beginning. And I think, I don't know, we already give example or not, it's like, if you break your leg, even though it can be fixed, but once you have broken it, there is some damage already, and next time there can be, it can, small fall can make a big damage, even though you can, through surgery, you can be done. Similarly like that, it takes more time. So, and try not to be tainted by serious infractions. And if you still get tainted because of, too much delusion, not mindful and so forth, apply the meaning of restoring your commitments, because they are the root of cultivating the path. And so then you try to, restore the commitments. You try to do the purifications to restore them, because that is the root to the path. Without them, it will be like a decrepit house whose side wall are collapsing. And in the root, Tantra of Manjushri said the king of sages did not teach mantra attainment for those without ethics. So keeping the vows, the commitment, the ethic is the very root of all the realization, especially in Tantra. And there in some commentary, it says, if you are able to keep the vows purely, tantric vows purely, then, even you don't do anything, within the 17 lifetime, you will achieve enlightenment if you are able to keep the vows without being any tainted, So at least there is in some there is saying that. Statements such as these are saying that there will be no great, medium, or small accomplishment, whatever. So, so great accomplishments, enlightenment, small accomplishment, maybe the common accomplishment, 8 common accomplishment, medium realizations. In the highest yoga tantra, it also says that those who do not guard their commitments have an inferior empowerment, or do not understand suchness will not accomplish anything despite their practice. So without having the understanding of the emptiness and without keeping the vows, there's no accomplishment, there's no realization. So it is clearly stated that. Therefore, someone who claims to cultivate the path without keeping their commitment and vows straying far from the principle of the mantras. So, sometimes, there can be a people, who claim they have reached a high realization in their practice that keeping the vows is not important anymore, because you have reached certain high realizations, because you have reached certain, keeping the vows is for those the beginner practitioners who have not reached those high realizations. But once you have reached high realization, keeping those commitment is not required sometimes there can be a practitioner who proclaim and who says that, and say here Lama Tsongkhapa is saying anyone who proclaim, anyone who says that is straying away from the principle of the mantras. You have totally lost the directions and the meaning or the essence of the mantras or the tantras. How to train the path of ripening liberation? That being so, those who got commitment and vow should gradually. So you take the initiation, having taken the initiation, then you try to guard, keep the commitment and vows, and then gradually training to yoga with and without sign, according to three law tantric classes, and in the stages of yoga, according to highest yoga, highest one in order to cultivate the path of Mandala. And here only the side of involving in Mandala present just nominally, so you must get to know those in detail stages of path of Mandala by Lama Tsongkhapa, him. So since he has written very detail in that, so he's not going to go in detail here, but gradually again, gradually, first you engage into one of the three law tantra. It is action tantra, performing tantra, and yoga tantra. And the fourth highest yoga is highest yoga tantra. So those are the three, and the sign and signless yoga, according to the three lower tantra, and the main practice is yoga of sign and yoga of signless. In the highest yoga tantra, then it is generation stage and completion stage, the practice of generation stage and completion stage in the highest yoga tantra. But in the lower tantra, they don't have that term, and the practice is also different, and also the term is different. It is not a generation or completion stage, but it is a yoga of sign and signless, and then yoga of sign is, you visualize the deity, you visualize the deity, okay? So of course, within the lower tantra, there are like 6 stages of practice, first, meditating on the emptiness, okay? Before you visualize as a deity, first dissolving the ordinary beings, yourself, into the emptiness and meditating on the emptiness. So that first. And from that emptiness, then, you visualize the mind, the mind, the wisdom that actualized the emptiness in the form of the moon, visualize in the moon disk. And then on top of the moon disk, then you visualize the mantra, whatever, the mantra of that deity, garlands of mantra, and with the sound of that mantras. And then all of them then transform into all of them transform into the lotus cushion and moon cushion. On top of that, the deity, whatever deity that you're visualizing, Then of course, after you visualize, then there is a certain mudras that you do, and then and within that there is certain other the practice of reciting of the mantras of that. Of course, there are other practices such as prostrating, 7 limb practice, and all others, but mainly those 6 part of the practice is the main. So that is a sign, because you visualize with the sign all these different forms and then with the Buddha's image and that, And the signless is, you just meditate on the emptiness, So then you just meditate on emptiness, Instead of visualizing all these different actual generation of the Buddha, and then meditating on that, and meditating on emptiness. So that is the main kind of the practice in lower tantra. In the highest yoga tantra, then there is the generation and completion stages. Generation stages is again they're similar, visualizing yourself or deity, all of that, but mainly, transforming the death and intermediate stages and the birth into a Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. So that is the main practice of generation stages. And of course we do that through visualizations. Even though we are not experiencing real death at the moment, that through your meditations you dissolve and then visualize that you are going through this death process, all of that, and then you meditate on the emptiness with that kind of clear light mind. Even though we don't have clear light mind at the moment, but we visualize that, going through all the stages and manifesting on that clear light mind. And with that clear light mind, then you try to meditate on the emptiness. So that is similar to the death, and transforming the death into the Dharmakaya. And then from that state, in normal, when someone died, then they go through the death, then they go to the Parto, the intermediate stage. So in this practice, then again, then from that clear light mind, then with you develop with a wish to manifest into a Sambhogakaya. From that Dharmakaya state, then you develop, you cultivate a strong wish to benefit sentient beings. And in order to benefit sentient beings, then you manifest in Sambhogakaya. And with that, then again, there is a visualizations, in terms of Yamataka, then you visualize from that, then you visualize the Manjushri, for example, and you visualize as a Manjushri, there is again, a certain of that. And again, that also eventually you visualize at that, and then eventually even that dissolve. And again, you visualize, even though with Sambhogakaya, even though you can benefit sentient beings, but you cannot benefit all sentient beings, because you can only benefit only more highly realized beings like bodhisattvas. You are unable to help all the ordinary beings. So you develop a strong wish to manifest as Nirmanakaya in order to benefit all the sentient beings, even the ordinary sentient beings. And with that wish, then again, then your visualizations, you visualize in the main deity, the main deity, and that is the Nirmanakaya. So that is part of the, that is like from the intermediate stage, then taking a rebirth, say taking a rebirth, instead of a rebirth, then you visualize as the full deity of that particular, whatever practice of that. So that is part of the main practice of the generation stages. That is the main part of the generation stage. Of course, there are many others. And then completion stage is, is all about, working with your dwarf chakra and wind energies to kind of open your central channel, and so that you can access to the more subtle mind, clear light mind, and so that you can use the more subtle clear light mind in your practice, so that you can have a realization quickly and directly. And so in completion stages, once you have a strong, without a strong generation stage, if you try to meditate on completion stage, is nothing more than, it doesn't become a cause for enlightenment. It is just maybe, you might have a certain, ability and a lot of things, but So in order to have the completion, you need to have the generation stage. And in order for the generation stage to become as effective, then you need to have the common path, the common foundations. So those are the, so those, that is the main. How to make freedom endowment meaningful in this manner. If you train in such a way, you will be training in perfectly complete body of the path that include all the essential point of Tantra, Sutra and Tantra. And if we do that, then you will make freedom. You have achieved this precious human life, meaningful through your training. And you will be able to make jewel of the victorious teaching develop in your own continuum and that of others. So, yeah. So that is what we need to do, is to cultivate the Dharma within our mind stream. And having cultivated the Dharma within our mind stream, then we can kind of inspire and help others to develop within their mind stream, And so in that way, then we are able to practice the whole complete path, both Sutra and Tantra. And so then this is the conclusions, conclusion verses, The Victor taught the Sutra and Tantric approaches, two aspects of the path, the excellent text, So the Buddha taught the Sutra and Tantra approach, two aspects of the path. And then excellent text, the commentary by the earlier masters after the Buddha, such as Nagarjuna and so forth, on the fact of all these sutric scriptures and treatises easily come to be seen as a direct instruction through the fearless faith that one's giving, So all these texts and scriptures, we should understand as instructions instead of seeing them as some kind of philosophy, debate. Do you get it? It's some kind of nothing to do with the practice or instruction, but it is something to kind of seeing some of them as seeing, it is just a philosophy, it is just a argument between different school of thoughts, but it's not essential and meaning for our really practice. There's a lot of misunderstanding of that. It has been misunderstood, a lot of misunderstanding even in the past and continuity, and therefore saying there is no need to study all of this. No need to study all of this because they are not needed for our practice. So here Je Tsongkhapa is saying all of them are instructions. They all are instructions, and we should understand that instructions. And if we have the faith in that, then you will understand they're all as instructions, all of them as instructions. Common great vehicle path explained in the Tantras are all made clear with supremely trained the continuums. Moreover, you realize well the error of the path sought by the yogis and correctly explained according to very clear text by many scholars of concentration common to the Buddhist, non-Buddhist, Hinayana, both kind of Mahayana, so both kind of Mahayana, Sutrayana and Tantrayana, higher and lower, and within the Tantra, higher Tantra and lower Tantra, and both stages. In the lower Tantra, there's sign and signless stages, and the highest complete generation completion stages. And Je Tsongkhapa explain all of that here. This summary of the stages of path, I rearrange for those who want liberations. So again, Je Tsongkhapa saying he didn't actually, he didn't kind of make up all of that. It's all based on the Sutra, Tantric, and all these commentaries by the great Indian masters. but he kind of rearranged in a certain way to make it easier for the practitioners, because if you in sutra, it is not arranged in this way. You have to study so many sutras to bring all this information of lamrim is not in one sutra. It is kind of spread out in so many different sutras. Even in the Indian masters' writing, they are spread out in many different. Nagarjuna's writing, for example, you only find very small mentioning of especially the method path. Method path, Bodhicitta and all the method path. You don't find so much details in most of Nagarjuna's writing. His writing mostly focus on the wisdom part. Then you find those on method. Then you find in Asanga's writings, Maitreya's writings, Shantideva's writings. But again, even in Shantideva's writing, is spread out. Even within the 10th chapter, it's kind of spread out. It's not kind of systematically kind of gradual path is not explained in that way. It's kind of spread out. So by all that, Lama Tsongkhapa, by relying on Adisha's Lamb of the Path, then he wrote this one and rearranged that for those who wish to achieve liberations and fully enlightenments. For that benefit, for that purpose, then he rearranged that. The path of the view that is profound, so that is the wisdom and extensive behavior, that is the method, pass on from the regent. So regent is the Maitreya, so that is the next coming Buddha. So the regent, the Buddha, Maitreya, So the profound and the noble Manjushri. So extensive, the method is passed through Maitreya and to Asanga, and whereas profound, the view is passed through Manjushri, Bodhisattva Manjushri, to protect the Nagarjuna. And then Asanga and three rivers that will merge, the supreme instruction of Adishas, So three rivers, there is a lineage of the extensive method lineage, profound wisdom lineage, and Lapchen Chögyu, the lineage of, I think maybe sometimes it is even translated as a blessing lineage, but Lapchen Chögyu is in Tibetan is a peerless or incredible lineage of behavior, and so those are the three rivers, So the river, the wisdom river that come through Manjushri to Asanga, Manjushri to Nagarjuna, and then the profound lineage of the river that come through Manjushri to Nagarjuna, and Maitreya to Asanga. And then the other river is from Manjushri to Shantideva. So those are the three rivers of the lineage that is possessed by the Adisha. He received all those three different lineage, and he passed those lineage. And so those lineage through the virtues and dedication, through the virtue gained by my effort, made the victor teaching, root of all welfare, prosper uncorrupted for a long time. And this was summary of essential point of all the scriptures of the Buddha, the tradition of the great trailblazer Nagarjuna Asanga, and Dharma system of supreme being who progressed through the level of omniscience. It was a presentation of the stages of path to enlightenment that teach in full all the stages to be practiced by the three types of the persons. So small scope, middle scope, and great scope persons. The meaning of instruction that I've heard and were transmitted both from Gomboba to Nesurpa, and from Changawa, from Potowa to Sharawa, and from Potowa to Tolbo. So again, three different lineage. within the Kadamba traditions, there are 3 different lineages. There are 3 different Kadamba lineages. And so all of them, Lama Tsongkhapa receive all those 3 different Kadamba lineage as well. This traditional summary of intensive presentation of stages of the path was composed by learned and renowned fully ordained monk Tsongkhapa Losantapa Pel on Mount Genden. Okay, so I think that is, with that we completed. So whether whether you understood or not, at least you have some imprint, and hopefully you will be able to study yourself again, read again yourself. Again, we cannot kind of leap out because the saying is not easy or difficult, and also it was good for me because it also gave me opportunity to again read myself and trying to understand myself, even though I have received those commentaries few times from different teachers, even though I have read myself quite a few times, but still, my teacher used to say you can read 20 times, 50 times, and you can still have a new understanding each time you read. And so you can continue to again. So yeah, so just because we finished now, you don't close it completely and put in the somewhere else, you shouldn't do. You should try to read it, even if it's a few pages a day, even if it's a few pages a day. Okay, so thank you for your patience for last, I think maybe 3 years. I guess it was 3 years. But of course, it is year and a half, because mostly it was 6 months in a year. So it was year and a half, basically. But of course, because of that, it took 3 years. So sometimes it is not easy to commit yourself when it's long, and because of that, now I think from next year, I might be doing slightly different. For the, I think Wednesday will still, I think, Discovering Buddhism taught by different teachers, we will have that. But I will be teaching on Friday because we want to keep the timing same. So this has been Discovering Buddhism that we want to continue. So I will be teaching on Friday, but it will be kind of mix of practices and some of some root texts of Nagarjuna's and others root texts that will be maybe 4 to 8 sessions each of them, so that within the 8 sessions we can complete one of those, some of the root texts by certain, of course there was a request for the oral transmission commentary on Diamond Kata Sutra, because we do recite that often, and so that will be one of the, we will be going through that, and then also I wanted to do on some others, Nagarjuna's texts, root texts, and others, and then maybe then we all also be doing some of the practice we do it at the centers, and individually people who do stacks. So we'll have some commentary on that, and then also I want to do also some teaching on some of the preliminary practices as well. So yeah, so it will be kind of mixture of different, some classical root texts, some practices. Yeah. Okay. So thank you everyone. Thank you again. Okay. unless anyone has any questions.
Geshe Sherab, I have a comment.
Yes, please.
It's a very simple comment after all this complex teaching on Tantra. The part in one of the meditations that talks about dependence, the power of dependence, refuge, and the power of dependence, bodhicitta. And I used to always see that as like an order. You must be more, you must take more refuge. You must depend on bodhicitta more, like that. And then one day I was thinking that I had it back to front, that it was like, this is something you can depend on. You know, you can depend on refuge. You can depend on bodhicitta. It wasn't like this high standard I had to live up to, although obviously it is. It was like, no, there is a power in depending on this refuge. There's a power of depending on this bodhicitta. And when my mind was just completely full of delusion and, you know, I couldn't really think very well, you know, I used to think, okay, well, I can depend on refuge. Even the most simple, tiniest understanding I have of it, I can depend on that. I can depend on bodhicitta, even the tiniest little thing that I understand. And I just found it really interesting, you know, how I had got it completely back to front. And this other way, even though my practice was so very, very basic, it was something I could kind of hang on to, and it sort of felt meaningful. So I just wanted to share that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. I think it's great. I think you share something I think most people go through. You know, we try to force ourselves. I have to be, you know, perfect. I have to be compassionate. I have to have bodhicitta all the time. I have to have guru devotion all the time. All of this, and then when we find ourselves not being those state all the time, then we become harsh on ourselves. And then I'm not good practitioner. I'm not good enough. I'm not a good Buddhist. I'm not good human beings, and all of that. And so then when that happens, then it can become a pressure. It builds up pressure, stress, and then you feel better not to practice, better not to be a practitioner. I don't have to have all this stress, you know. Maybe I don't need to be a Buddhist. If I'm not Buddhist, maybe I don't have to think about being a good person. Do you get it? If I'm a Buddhist, I have to be a good person. If I'm a Buddhist, I have to be a patient. If I'm a Buddhist, I have to be a compassion and bodhicitta. And since I cannot be, so better not be a Buddhist. Better not. So, you know, so, and I'm glad that you are able to kind of flip that. You are able to flip that and see that I can depend on refuge. I can depend on compassion with little, whatever little we can do. And with that you are able to change and flip that. And I think is really, really wonderful. And thank you for sharing. And I think that is great, great sharing. And that is how we all have to try to be able to flip like that, instead of being kind of stress and pressure and being harsh on ourselves, you know. So yeah, that is all I just wanted to add. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So then we'll do the dedications.
Geshe, since it's the end, may I make a Thanksgiving mandala, please?
Yes, yes. Okay.
Up of the center. Thank you, Geshe. John, if you wouldn't mind putting the Thanksgiving mandala prayer for everyone.
Sorry, Shankar. I didn't realize
It's fine. Saji Bhagi Jukshing Me Duk Tram Rira Benji Ni Degan Badi Sangye Jing De Mikte Uwa Gidoku Namada Jing La Chobasho Idam Guru Ratnamanda. Oh, may my Venerable Lama's life be firm, his wide divine actions spread in the 10 directions. May the torch of the teachings of the Lozang always remain, dispelling the darkness of all beings in the 3 realms. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniriyatayami. Thank you, Geshe.
So then we do the dedications.
Do you have the dedication, John? There we go.
Yeah, we can. It's okay. Yeah. So again, you can either join me in Tibetan chanting or you can do it in English. So again, we dedicate all our virtues that we have created from the past, present, future, especially last 3 years, by studying and trying to learn the lamrim, to develop all the realizations within the mind stream once every all sentient beings, and to achieve fully enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Yewadi nyodo da lama sangye do ne ye do wa chi yama le ba ye sa la gwe ba sho. We also dedicate to develop the 2 bodhicitta, conventional ultimate bodhicitta, to realize within oneself all sentient beings, those who have not already realized and those who already realized, not diminish but increase more and more. Chanjo sem chorim boche, ma ke pa na ke kyoche, ke wa nyamba me ba yo, kon le kon do pe wa sho. Chiden kamde pende malu ba kangle chungwe sanbe ishe karin chungme tenzen jaso la sowa deso tuje lundu sho tuju jangzin janggen kyawe tenzen jangpe kunso toko zi choson kowe le mo tuju a la so luje gwendu sha ten sho. Venerable One, to you whose kindness is that of all the consider for those who wander in far places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us, in intentionally descending again in the family of far distant land, we make this request, O Lama, please live long. So then we also dedicate due to all the virtues, what all the Buddhas, Bodhisattva, and others, and oneself are created, which are empty from its own side. May we be able to achieve fully enlightenment, which is empty from its own side, for the benefit of all sentient beings, which is empty from its own side. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Again, and good night. Thank you.
Geshe, sorry. Request again if we could make your long life prayer, if we could recite it for you.
No, it's okay.
Geshe, this is the last class. Can we do it, please? Please.
No, you can keep in your mind. It's okay. Yeah.
We'll do it when you leave.
Yes.
We always do.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you,
Thank you.
Geshe.
Thank you, Bob,
Geshe.
again for all your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you.